Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be covering the history of one of my favorite games of all time, Space Station 13. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Space Station 13, it's a free-to-play game on the Build Your Own Net Dream platform, often shortened to BYOND, a game-making program that can be compared to something like RPG Maker, but from 1996. BYOND has been home to numerous games over the years, but Space Station 13 has stood above them all in popularity. While many games such as Cow RP or the many Naruto spin-offs have died out, Space Station 13 has grown, evolved, and recently has been gaining attention from large YouTubers such as Seth and Cricken. But how did we get here? It all began on February 16th, 2003. The original version of Space Station 13 was created by one man, ExaDV1, who I will hereforth call ExaDev1, and posted onto the BYOND site. The game was designed initially to be an atmospheric simulator for a college project. However, ExaDev continued to work on it for some time after. ExaDev states that his inspiration for the game was largely driven by Ridley Scott's Alien and the sci-fi genre as a whole. ExaDev had also previously read an article on the blog Game Programming Gems 3, which outlined how to create an atmosphere simulator using cellular automata. I wish I could better explain what this is, but the article is highly technical and is way above me. I'll link it below for those who may be interested, but for now, let's move on to another one of his inspirations, another BYOND game called Spacetug, released in 2001. Spacetug featured crazy, exaggerated hull breach physics and was also inspired by the Alien movies. While building his atmospheric sim, ExaDev also built up the station and its various departments around it, built to make things more interesting and to give ExaDev a little bit of a break from the math-heavy programming that was atmospherics. As he began to get this functional simulator going, ExaDev decided that he wanted to create his own element, one that would be visible and flammable. Thus, he created plasma, every griefer's favorite substance and every captain's worst nightmare. What many don't know about Space Station 13 is that the game was originally terrestrial, taking place on the surface of Earth, but was moved to a space station quickly so that he could code some vacuum physics for fun. It took ExaDev about a week to code the foundation of the atmospheric sim, and he worked on the rest of the game over the course of another several months before releasing it in February of 2003. Following the release, ExaDev spent time writing lore and creating one of the more confusing flowcharts I've ever seen in my life, outlining the hierarchy of the game. For those of you who are as lost as I am, I'll do my best to sum it up shortly. The United Nations, at the behest of the United States, launches the Space Station program, eventually creating Space Station 13. The US essentially outsources the stations to Nanotransit, who is the largest and most advanced technology company in the world. The purpose of these space stations is to promote commerce and rapidly speed up research in interstellar exploration, as well as build up a network of defense for the United States. Most of the research done on the station revolves around plasma, a newly discovered element that has no neutrons, only hyangs, a new type of particle. This is unique in that there is only one other element that has no neutrons, and that is hydrogen, but only in a specific isotope known as a protium. Here is where the Syndicate comes in. The Syndicate is a global criminal organization, hell-bent on taking over the US. They no longer reside on Earth, but on some faraway unnamed planet, as they are being hunted by the police forces across the world. They wish to take over the various space stations to take control of the defense networks, harness the power of plasma, and then seize the United States. With the lore and code ready, ExaDev would begin hosting on the BYOND browser to a community of about 20 people total. The peak player base in 2003 was around 10 people, with 5 of them holding the position of admin. Most of these players were friends with ExaDev that he had made through other BYOND games. The early versions of Space Station 13 had jobs like doctor or engineer, but little to do as them. They were essentially little more than roleplay titles, so much of the fun came from breaking the station and beating each other up. Much like today. The sprite work was also quite basic compared to what we are used to today, as were many of the mechanics. Just check out a screenshot from that period. The few mechanics the game did have were fiercely guarded. You could be banned for just discussing them out of game or for leaking any secrets found. The code was also closely guarded, only ExaDev had it, and when sent it out already compiled with just the resource files to trusted friends, meaning he was the only dev and the only one really working on it at this point. In this early form of SS-13, there was no wiring or electricity. Everything was just naturally powered, leaving engineers with little to do. There was also no game modes yet. The server was in a perpetual state of extended, as we know it today. The round only ended when the server was taken offline. the escape shuttle would still be a distant dream. Realizing he needed to keep people entertained, Exadev set about working on the first game modes. He created 5 of them in total, the first being Traitor, similar to how the Traitor we know today works. One player would randomly assign to assassinate a target via whatever means they could. The uplink, which allowed access to fun tools, was added shortly after as well. Following Traitor, Meteor was created, in which the station would be hit by meatball-looking meteors, blowing a hole in the area and causing chaos. This was a quite unpopular game mode. Following Meteor was Extended, which already sort of existed, but was now formally designated as a game mode. Then came the Monkey Infection, in which players started as an infected monkey who could infect others, turning them into monkeys. The final mode would be Nuke Ops, in which a team of Syndicate invaders attempted to detonate the nuclear device on the station. It works sort of similar to today. You still needed to capture the disk and insert it into the nuke, but instead of having just a code, you had to do a random series of toggles and kind of just press buttons until it told you were good to go. Anyway, as time rolled on, Exadev would get more and more busy in his personal life, gradually sharing his code with other trusted players who continued to develop the code and keep the SS13 website running. 2 players who were not privy to this source code, named AZA and Hobnob, were both hard at work trying to recreate and reverse engineer the Space Station 13 code with some limited success. Although Hobnob was able to create the first mapping tool the game had ever seen outside of the default Dreammaker. The program was called MapSub and was released publicly on the BYOND forums and can still be found today. With the departure of Exadev, the remaining tiny community began to lose interest, and player numbers dropped sharply back into the single digits, which wasn't really terrible for a BYOND game at the time, but it certainly wasn't a good sign. What came next would be the subject of speculation for years. In March 2008, the source code of SS13 would suddenly become available. Rumors spread like fire throughout the community, with one of the most prevalent being that a friend had stolen a flash drive while visiting Exadev's house and sent the contents to one of the programmers. Another story is that Exadev had given a limited code to AZA, who then worked with Hobnob to decompile and recreate the game against Exadev's will. These 2 theories are pretty much accepted as fact until 2017 Exadev did an interview and explained that he had given AZA the code and essentially told him he could do whatever he wants with it. Sadly, the truth is often more boring than fiction. But back to 2008. The release of the source code meant everything for the future of SS13. This new codebase would go on to be known as Open SS13. With a new influx of coders, the power network and lighting frameworks were constructed. The early game was rough, but with time, slowly improved. Shortly after the launch of Open SS13, the game began to be discussed on the Something Awful forums, whose members referred to themselves as Goons. The Something Awful forums would take heavily to the game, hosting their own servers and working amongst themselves to develop their own private codebase that we now know today as Gooncode. All the while, the rest of the community worked on Open SS13. This first iteration of Gooncode would also feature a new map, the first of its kind, known as Donut Station, while the rest of the game was stuck on Old Station. Released sometime in 2009, Donut Station would bring with it the creation of the Chief Engineer, the Research Director, the Chef, the Quartermaster, and Monkey Rounds, in which the crew had to fight speedy robot NPC monkeys. Donut Station was a huge step forward for the game, featuring much improved sprite work, functioning power, and the establishment of command. But the Goons didn't stop there. Within February of 2010, another station would be released, called Dev Station, or Ovary Station due to its resemblance. With Dev Station, again came some new features, pathology or virology as we know it today, electricians dedicated to working with the new power network, miners and mining, the Singularity Engine, and the infamous clown car. At this point, servers were hitting mind-shattering peaks of 25 players, which for a BYOND game was massive. At the end of 2010, Goon servers were hitting nearly 50 players, which was beyond, anyone's wildest dreams. Under pressure from the community, Goon programmers released R4407, their codebase in its entirety, which would kickstart the many codebases to follow. However, it would also be their last public release for over 6 years. This private Goon code was a massive leap forward for the game, both in coding and spriting. Much of the poorly written or damaged code from prior reverse engineering attempts was replaced, rewritten, greatly optimized, and with an easier to work with syntax. As word of this new, incredible, and most importantly free game spread across the internet to gaming sites like Penny Arcade, BYOND Games, Newgrounds, and 4chan, every community rushed to get in on the hype. Taking the released Goon code, 4chan's TG board would branch off into their own base, known as TG Station, with BYOND forum members creating Baystation. At this point, there were 4 steady servers on which to play, 2 of which ran on Goon code and featured both Donut Station and Dev Station. Both Bay and TG each ran 1 server each. Other gaming communities wouldn't be far behind, with Knock Station, Facepunch, Yogstation, VG Station, Lifeweb, and a number of others releasing and working on their own code at around this time. From this point on, many servers would come and go, rise and fall without much drama in between. Devs and players mostly kept to their own groups and shared what progress they could with each other. In May 2013, TG Station would hit a major road bump. The longtime TG forums and wiki would be locked without warning, leading to the admin team frantically working to get the new website up. While the admin team was able to successfully transfer the information, in these days before programs like Discord allowed for easy community information spreading, many TG players visited the old forums and seeing them locked, assumed the project had been put on hold or cancelled. This would devastate the TG player base and cause them to hemorrhage players to other codebases, taking months to get back to their old numbers. Things would continue on okay until around 2014, when TG Station would again have trouble. As the TG player base grew, divisions formed amongst the old guard and the noobs. The friction would spread to the admin team as well, until somewhere around Easter of 2014, in which a number of the admins and coders were purged, leading to the creation of yet another branch of SS13 known as NT Station. One of the admins removed from power was also the owner of the new TG Station website, which he promptly closed, forcing TG to yet again migrate their forums and wiki to a new site, having similar effects on the player base. TG Station wouldn't be the only group with drama, however. Back in 2013, Yogstation would also undergo a split due to staff disagreeing with then-host Elite X Hitman's inability or lack of interest in solving the server's numerous disconnect and lag issues. The resulting schism nearly ended Yogstation, but the new devs prevailed in solving the old issues, allowing the new Yogstation 13 to take its place. 2015 would be a relatively drama-free year, though it would come with many changes. TG Station's original host from 2010 had decided to pass the torch to a new host, who would open up crowdfunding for the server, allowing for better development and equipment. Only a few months into his tenure, however, the second host would again pass off the title to the TG's third and current host. 2016 is what I would like to call the golden age of Spacestation 13, but also likely its most dramatic year. Numerous servers would see player accounts in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. With these new players came new attention. SS13 had started to be picked up by popular gaming magazines and bring even more new blood into the game. These new players would commit many pull requests on GitHub, rapidly building onto Spacestation 13 at a speed never seen before. It was around this time in 2016 that Colonial Marines, the most popular server today, would come into being. Initially, just a server that ran 24/7 Alien mode, hosted on then one of New Eden Station's unused servers. That was the golden part. But here comes the drama. On March 1st, 2016, an individual known as 0xCSRF hacked into the Goonstation repository on Bitbucket, using an admin's password that he stole from an XSplit data breach. He did not release the code right away, but threatened the Goon community that he would do so unless they paid him. A player named Eric Hansen paid 0x some $400 in Bitcoin not to release the code, but he did so anyway, posting it publicly on GitHub. The community as a whole rallied around Goonstation, with devs from all of the other codebases refusing to steal their code and to use it without their permission. Goon coders, while disheartened, made the best of the situation and formally released the code publicly. This move rallied the community, bringing coders from all over the game to help contribute and improve Goon code, making a record number of PRs shortly after the release was made. In the end, Goon code was improved, not destroyed by the actions of 0x. In late 2016, Rocket 2 Guns, the lead developer on the DayZ Arma mod and eventual DayZ standalone game, announced that he would be making an SS13-inspired game called Ion. This was the first real attempt by a professional group to remake the game. Not much came out of it though, other than a neat trailer, as the game would eventually be cancelled and the assets of it flipped into Stationeers, which actually did release into early access in 2017. As we work our way into 2017, Goon code had again gone private, with their secrets being altered to make them secret again. It was around now that many of the codebases began to really shine in their own unique way, with each finding its niche. A ton of spin-off and theme servers also began popping up, like Interbay, FTL13, SCP-13, Lebensraum, a million different Fallout servers, a Warhammer 40k server, and many others I'm probably forgetting. Things continued on this course for some time, with little deviations until the Great Tide came.
Hey people, Seth here.
Now, SS13 had numerous tides from small YouTubers, or the occasional Twitch streamer. If those had been tides, then this was a tsunami. On March 17th, 2019, YouTuber Seth Zintok would release a video about Spacestation 13, bringing about hordes of his fans to the game. The video currently sits at 4,264,875 views. This is by far and away the most attention Spacestation 13 has ever had. The game had hovered at around 1,000 active players for years now. Seth would push this number up to around 1,800 today. As we enter into 2020, SS13 is more popular than ever, with more and more attention being brought to the game and more unique ideas being created within its framework. From the elusive cyberpunk Lifeweb to the trench-shooting IS12, SS13 continues to grow and change, aided by its loyal players and hardworking volunteer programmers. I foresee SS13 only getting bigger and better as we move throughout this new decade. To close, we'll cover one last bit of drama. On February 12, 2020, a former Goon coder leaked Goonstation code from November 2019. Following this, Goonstation staff decided it was time to make the project wholly open source, concealing only some of the secret features. With the release of such a deep codebase, one can only assume other servers will build off of their achievements again, bettering SS13 for us all. That's about all I could pull from memory, wiki, and various forum and Reddit posts. Thank you guys for watching. I know I missed a ton of servers and different game modes throughout the video, but I'm going off of my memory and what I could find on the internet. If this video finds success, I'll look into speaking with the various codebases and server hosts and making individual videos on each. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and let me know what you think below. I'll see you all next time.